Good evening, members of the South County Photo Club. This is Rick Valasek, and I'm going to present a program tonight. Since I'm sitting in my house, just having been tested positive for COVID, don't worry, I'm not contagious through YouTube. I'm going to do a kind of an overall presentation on how to do nice portraits using a single speed light. Unless you're shooting in a coal mine, there's going to be ambient light in the room or outside or wherever you're shooting the portrait. Ambient light is your friend, and it's something you're going to want to take advantage of. First of all, we're going to talk about the different properties of light. Real quick, just something real quick. First of all, we got the quantity of light. You can think of that as the intensity or the brightness. The quality of light, which is quite a bit more important, it refers to the hardness or softness of the light. And we'll go into that in great detail. And also probably the color of the light, whether it be 3400 Kelvin or 6500 Kelvin. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. And finally, there's the direction of the light. And that's kind of obvious. Where's the light coming from? Just so that you know, most portraits are shot with the light, whether it be the sun or the speed light or anything else, coming from above. The reason we are oriented to have the light come above, because that's where the sun is. When the light comes from below, everything starts to look like a Halloween mask real fast. So, in fact, here's a quick shot of a lighting setup by a gentleman by the name of Sean Tucker. He's a very good portrait photographer, and he almost always uses just one light for his setups. You can see his light setup is 45 degrees off axis or over to the side, in this case the left hand side, and angled up anywhere from a 35 to 45 degree angle, because that's where we expect the sun to be. As far as the quantity of light, let's first of all take a look at the ambient light in the room. And when I say we'll take a look, we'll just quickly observe it. If you're outside, there's going to be a lot more light. Inside, you'll have light no matter what, unless, as I said, you're in a coal mine. So you want to look at the amount of light in the room, and either look through your viewfinder if you have a mirrorless camera. Your viewfinder or your viewfinder on the back will show you how bright or dark the ambient light actually is. We're going to use that light, and we're going to add to it with the speed light. The speed light is going to add two main things. It's going to add direction and make it very directional, and it's also going to add quality of light, the softness or the hardness. Let's stop for a second and take a look at the hardness and softness. I've thrown up a couple of pictures here. The first one is a color card, and you'll see that the light is very hard. Look at the shadow next to the color card. You notice how defined the edge is on the shadow. In contrast, if we get the light softer, you'll notice how soft the shadow is. Okay, here's a couple of quick photos to show you how this works in practice. You notice a left and right picture. One's hard light, one's soft light, and different qualities of the light. The second one shows the color photo, shows a little bit more realistic and more obvious. Actually, it's the opposite of obvious. It's kind of a subtle difference, but you'll see where the arrows are pointing to the edge of the shadow. You notice how gradual the edge is. Okay, so how do we achieve this softness of light? Well, there's a couple of different ways we can do it. But primarily, we have to make the light bigger. The real crux of the matter is, how big is the light source? What I mean by that is, if you take a look at the end of your speed light, you've got a little 3-inch by 2-inch flash tube, and that's very small. Unless you can get it within inches of the person's face, it's going to be very small. Now, forget about the brightness of it. Just worry about how big the light source is. So, How do we make the light source bigger on a speed light without making a huge speed light? Well, we shoot the light through a panel or we bounce it off of something. In fact, you'll see here that here's the speed light sitting on the camera in the quote normal position. In this position, you're going to have hard light. There's just no getting around it. And it's going to look terrible. The shadows of the person are going to look terrible, not only on their face, but on the background. Here's a couple of things we can do. First of all, we can angle the light away from the person towards a white object or a light colored object. Now, you've got to be careful here because if you bounce the light off of a blue wall or a red wall, it's going to take on the color of that wall also. An easy solution is to hold a white card in your hand, bounce the light up from that white card, and all of a sudden the light goes from a 2-inch by 3-inch light source to a 2-foot by 2-foot light source. Much, much better. The closer the light is to the subject, the softer it will be. Don't confuse intensity with the softness or hardness of the light itself. The closer the reflector and the light source is, the bigger the light will be compared to the subject itself. And so light comes from various different directions and softens itself out as it wraps around the face. Here's an example of the ultimate soft lighting. So here's the assembled light box, strobe, mount, sitting on an inexpensive light stand, and this becomes your portable studio. At this point, you can either add more light speed lights if you want, or just a simple reflector. Reflector on a stand works very, very nice. So what does this stuff cost? Well, this particular speed light's a Godox V1. It's made specifically for either a Canon or a Nikon camera. They have two different versions, and they run $259, which is appreciably less than the Nikon or Canon version of a speed light. It's as capable as the brand manufacturer's speed light. In fact, it's more capable, and it allows you to use a inexpensive trigger. The triggers run about $40, and here's a trigger, and here's how it's used. Now, why use a trigger? Well, and the obvious reason. Not only can you trigger the flash remotely, so you don't have to have an assistant standing there holding it. Also, with this particular trigger, you can change the intensity of the flash itself. You can change it from full power to half power to quarter power, all the way down to 256th of a power flash, which is very handy. The bracket itself to hold the strobe costs $25. That's a price from Adorama or B&H or Amazon. And the light box this is a 1 foot by 2 foot light box, runs $22.95. So without spending a tremendous amount of money, you can have a very professional setup to take wonderful portraits. Your last consideration after you've established the light that you're going to fire on your subject is how the subject's going to look at the camera. Are they going to be looking straight down the barrel of the lens? Not such a great thing for most shots. They're usually angled to the side, one way or the other. Now, the big question is the light on the side that is primarily facing the lens and the camera, or is it on the other side? Well, the best solution to that is try both sides, because some people have, quote, good sides and some people have bad sides. Experimentation is what it's all about. You're going to want to get different looks, and you're going to want to shoot quite a few pictures. When you're shooting portraits, the first 10 pictures you shoot will probably be throwaways because the person getting their picture taken is very nervous and they need to relax. One of the things which is kind of I recommend to do, and I think a lot of people do, is after you get a couple of good shots of the person in their best poses, take the camera off the tripod, or if you've got it in your hand, go over to the subject and show them their image on the back of the viewfinder. Once they see that you're trying to make them look good, you'll find that they loosen up quite a bit, and that's when you're going to start getting your good shots.